do you feel different ways when you're writing, say, Expression versus a party, or is it all just, creative? It's just a creative thing.
Yeah, yeah, you feel different ways. If it's a statement song like Expression, you probably feeling like you're not expressing yourself, or you're not being allowed to express yourself. And so that's a song you kind of write with a little bit of a vengeance, you know. And then you have I Like to Party, and it's just like you got to be in a fun type of zone. Like I just feel like, writing and creating something fun that will make people dance and make them happy. So yeah, it's definitely different emotions when you're writing for sure.
Okay. And then getting up to that point, you guys had 3 albums, all hugely successful. How did the collaboration and you and Pep's evolution as artists affect as you guys were making songs differently? Because I imagine it was a different, now you guys are successful, now you guys have toured, now you guys are platinum. How did that affect making songs on Black's Magic, getting into Very Necessary?
I mean, I think it's in our minds, like every album has to be better than the last. There's a lot of pressure, to bring it up, to step it up. I think Very Necessary, was a huge moment, for us in that way, and a challenge to top the last. So bringing around more creative folks, stepping away from Herbie a little bit more to try and think outside the box a little bit more, wanting to express your creativity a little bit more, bringing in, we didn't have stylists back then, we were dressing ourselves, like doing our own hair and makeup and wardrobe and making it up organically as we went along, which was fine because, it created all those iconic looks and hairstyles that are emulated to this day. But musically and visually, that's when, for Shoop, we lost weight. We started being real conscious, like we didn't really lose that much weight, but we kind of got in shape. We made a conscious decision to work out and get in shape for that video. We brought in Matthew Ralston for the What a Man video, as well as in Bold. We started thinking about collabs. I don't think we really thought that much about collabs before. So in that way, we just knew it was time to step it up and change direction a little bit.
So with Very Necessary, also, I noticed that was the first time getting on London Records in addition to Next Plateau. So what changed or what happened to make that, and how did that affect you guys?
Yeah, the changing of the guards usually, it doesn't really turn out well, but it did for us at this point. If I recall correctly, Next Plateau was realizing, Eddie O'Loughlin was realizing that Salt and Pepper was getting bigger than he could handle, and he had to bring in a major. So that's when that happened, and I think it was really just a business decision, because the funny thing about going with we was with Pop Art Records for the Showstopper, and then we got with Next Plateau. I know it was crazy. Never saw a dime from them. I don't even know what those guys look like. But to go to Next Plateau, kudos to Eddie, because he gave us a chance when no one really would. And that was the good thing about indies, And he gave us a very small budget and was like, figure it out, And Herbie had the wherewithal to get in the studio and knock it out fast, that first album. And so I don't think Eddie expected, my point is, I don't think he expected these two little girls and Herbie to do, I think it was like an avalanche of success that came on him, that he finally had to let go of the reins and, ask for help. So I think that's what that transition mostly was about, business.
Well, pick that up in 1 second. But the thing about pop art that always blew me away is that they had, being in Philly, that they had such a huge role in breaking all these New York artists that they didn't know, they didn't do anything with it. It's just wild.
Yeah, Philly, man, Philly is a different kind of place. Like, I mean, the creativity that came out of Philly is incredible. I was thinking about that one day. I mean, like, you can go on and on of the magic that came out of Philly. So they're a little pot of I don't know, on their own. They have their own culture. They have their own thing going on. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite rapper is Schoolie D, and he just did so much for the business and changed a lot by having his own record label, by being a rapper, producer, did the drums, did his artwork, album covers. He just, and then he's been sampled hundreds of times by the biggest artists in the game, and even Nicki Minaj recently sampled, used the P.S.K flow on Bees in the Trap. So it's just Philly's crazy. And then of course
that was one of my favorite samples. That, oh my God. Yeah. Anytime you throw that on, it's like, oh, it blows your mind. Yes. That was a vibe.
Absolutely. And then with Next Plateau and getting into London with Very Necessary, the thing that is so impressive about it is that you guys had been out for not a decade, but close to a decade. And that's when you had, I would argue, your biggest success. So what benefit do you think that had for you that it wasn't on Assault with a Deadly Pepper or even Hot, Cool, and Vicious, that it was a little bit into your career that you had this huge surge of success that was unprecedented, even for you guys who had already been platinum?
I mean, I think you can attribute it to, finally getting that marketing power behind us that we didn't really have before, because Push It was a big, huge record, and that was on our first album. But when you get with a major, they have a lot more to offer as far as exposure and, getting those spots on the radio. And back then, record stores, those things counted, like, the space, they had to buy space. We never walked into a Tower Records and our display was like right there with our picture, so that was made a lot of difference, I'm sure. As well as those songs were just different. I think Shoop kicking that album off was crucial. I think, and me and Pep wrote that, and there were some other writers that wrote with Pep. I think that was a crucial moment. Mark Sparks, with that Ike Turner loop, that was another whole thing that just came together and just brought a certain type of energy. And I think that's when you saw Salt and Pepper as who we really were. I think it defined, because we confused people. People didn't really know what box to put us in most of the time. It really wasn't all the way street. That's how we started, and then, it was like you said, the Herbie sound was so different. But then to me, personally, even though Push It is like the most well-known record with the 8-ball jackets and that whole look, how that came together, I think Shoot is the song that defines us. It was the opportunity for us to do a collaboration with a different producer, and to write our own lyrics and to really come up with our own video concept. That's when we started working out. And that video to me is that fun fashion and femininity, that tongue-in-cheeky, roundaway girl, bold, in your face kind of scenario that Salt and Pepper brought to hip hop. And then What a Man, that was a whole nother thing. What a Man was like, okay, now we got to get like a director, like, because usually it was people from the Hood directing like the Tramp, you know, and these different songs. Millicent Sheldon, we put her on. Now she's big time, but we, you know, she was experimenting with us when she was doing our video. So now we're seeking after this world-renowned, amazing director, photographer, and putting up the big bucks. London's involved, so now we can pay somebody like that. And then, like I said, doing a collab. So it was like that collaboration was a whole nother level of how we looked, you know, the presentation. Even TLC, once they saw the What a Man video, they was like, we want, you know, whoever did that video. And Matthew Ralston ended up doing Creep, you know. So all of that coming together at the right time, you know, in our career is, to me, what made that song take off. And then I had the wonderful opportunity to have Tupac as my love interest. I got to roll around in the bed for a couple of hours with Tupac. It was a labor of love. Thank you. It was living vicariously through salt.
There you go. That brings up an interesting thing that also was interesting at the time, which was, this is 93, getting into 94 era. And a lot of artists that were not super hard or super street or gangster or whatever went that way because of the success of gangster rap and everything that was happening at the time. And I was glad you guys didn't venture in that route, but a lot of female rappers even did too. So what made you guys not want to do that?
I think that we felt that, you know, we felt a little ostracized. We felt, because, you know, pop wasn't popular back then, you know, was not really respected within the hip hop community. So we kind of felt like outsiders. And we also felt like if we did try to be anything other than who we are and what we were accepted to be, it would just come off as just disingenuous. You know, like, the audience is smart. They can see through stuff like that. They can see when you're being gimmicky or when you're trying to imitate, you know, a sound or whatever. It was the whole uniqueness of Herbie and Salt and Pepper that, you know, made us successful in the first place. So we definitely didn't want to try that. I think we tried it a little bit with Heaven and Hell. Maybe we were trying to be a little harder, but it was still Salt and Pepper. Like, you can't get away from your sound, basically. We brought in these two girls. Herbie brought in these two girls. He was always trying to make another Salt and Pepper. It ain't gonna happen, Herbie. It's never gonna happen. This is it, bro. So yeah, so they were rapping really hard, and I remember trying to bring a different energy, but it was like, let's stick to the script.
Gotcha. Well, the different energies I've neglected to ask too, but with the Spinderella evolution over the years, how was it when the second Spinderella came in? How did you guys make that work so seamlessly, as opposed to it ended up being a problem? Because it seemed like it just didn't matter. How did that work?
Yeah, well, it didn't matter, because here's what people don't understand, I think, about the whole Spinderella thing, is that there was such a history with Salt and Pepper before even the first Spinderella. You know, like, first of all, it was me and Herbie first. Herbie was actually going to be Pepper at one point. And there was two girls that were supposedly Pepper before the real Pepper came along. And that wasn't long lived. That was just Herbie trying to put a group together. You know, it was like what is it, when one laid in the bed was too hard, and the bears, the three little bears, and one was too soft and one was just right. So the one girl, her voice was too high pitched. The other girl, that was Janai. The other girl, her name was Allison. This wasn't even in the movie. She spoke too properly. And Herbie was always frustrated trying to get something out of them. And then when Pep came, it was like, bam, just right. Our vocal tones, like I said, everything just came together. And the fact that we were friends. So we were having fun, we were always laughing. We were always hanging out. We was always having a good time. So the vibes was good. The energy was good. Pepper was ghetto as hell, so it was like we needed that type of energy. So was I. And it just all worked. So before the first Spinderella, we had a male DJ, and his name was Quicksilver. And I hate that he's not in the movie, and all these years we haven't really given him his kudos, because he's the one that got us through those shows at the Inferno and at the Red Parrot and at, the Fever and the Devil's Nest, the Rooftop. He was in the streets with us. So shout out to Quicksilver. And then Herbie was like, it would be great to have a female DJ, which, always give him his props because he's got the ideas. And then that Spinderella came in, and she wasn't necessarily a DJ at that point. I think Herbie was looking more for a pretty girl to polish the look of it, and was expecting that she would, just get better, basically. And no disrespect to her, we all, had to, get better at our craft, but she was not interested in a way that we needed her to be. For me and Sandy, what happened here? For me and Sandy, this was like life to us. I was in school, I was failing. I don't know what the heck I was doing in college. I was not going to class. So when I got on that mic, I was like, this is do or die for me. So she didn't bring that type of energy to the thing. It was like, she was sleeping on it. So then eventually she made an announcement that she was getting married or something, I don't know, and she didn't want to be involved anymore. And so me and Pep was like, great, now it's back to just me and you, because we wasn't really feeling her like that anyway. She was a little standoffish. So we went a time with no DJ, and Herbie was stuck on the DJ thing, and he met Spinderella and brought her to his he had a studio in his garage, and he brought her to the garage one day. It was just me and Herbie there, and he was like, this is the next Spinderella, basically. And she did a little audition. She was 16 years old, and also knew there was room for growth, in the DJ area, but kind of just was like, okay, and she was super grateful for the opportunity, and she was young. And, me and Pep, we were already grown. And so that's how it just kind of like, happened.